Greetings, today on my Focus RS I am installing the Airtec Motorsport downpipe bracket. So here we are then, the Airtec Motorsport downpipe bracket for the Mark III Focus RS, and you can also use it on the ST, and I think it looks awesome. It's CNC machined, which you can tell, you can still see the machining marks in there, which I think looks really cool, and it just goes to show that it has been made with ultimate precision, and it just looks really sweet. You know, it's this really nice shiny metal. It's aluminium, so it's nice and light, but it is still very sturdy and strong. You have the two bushings then, which are upgraded over the stock rubber bushings, which are known to be very soft and can allow a lot of movement in the downpipe, which isn't so much of an issue with the stock downpipe. But whenever you upgrade to something with a larger bore, like a larger sports cat, like we are going to be getting installed very, very soon, that movement can allow it to hit off the sides, which isn't so good. And so that is why we have upgraded bushings. Now, the silicone bushings will provide the additional stiffness over the stock rubber bushings, which is a good thing, but then being silicone as opposed to polyurethane, they are much more heat resistant, which is quite important in this particular area because, of course, the downpipe can get very, very hot. That means that these will resist like softening under like a lot of heat, because that means that the heat coming through the downpipe won't negate the whole purpose of doing this upgrade in the first place. So yes, conceptually a very simple upgrade, but a very, very worthy one to do. So yeah, without any further ado, let's go to the car and get it installed. Okay, underneath the car then, right back here where the two posts are, the two hangers for the downpipe, you can see that there is the connection to the exhaust from the downpipe, and then just behind that we have our bracket here, the stock bracket, which has, I mean, very visibly these very big squishy chunky rubber bushes, which are just very easy to move around. So this is what we need to remove, and it has two bolts, both 10mm, so one on each side, one here and one here. So first thing to do is to remove those bolts. Alright, so they're not in super duper tight, so you'll have seen that I used a 10mm socket just to loosen them, just to break them, and then I switched over, just because it's a fairly tight space up in there, I just switched over to a little wrench to get the bolts all the way out. So that was pretty easy. So now we're nice and loose with our bracket, so now we just need to release the hangers from the bracket, and then that will be it out. At this point then, your biggest battle is getting the big end here of the hangers through the rubber, because they are quite chunky, and doing it like we're trying to do it here with everything else still in place, I mean, we can move this to a reasonable degree, but it is still a little bit awkward to get that pushed out of there. I am going to use a proper exhaust hanger removal tool, but I'm going to use it upside down, which you'll see in a minute, because we can't obviously get the big bit in here, so just going to flip it around and just kind of MacGyver it out of there. Boom. So you see, I used it like upside down just to get it started, and then I was able to flip it around and use it the right way around. Alright then, now that we're out of the car, we can do a side-by-side comparison with our stock item compared to our lovely new Airtec and BRC item. So, stock item, first thing that you're going to notice is these massive rubber bushings, and there's like even spaces in here to make them even more squishy, but I mean, like, you know, zero effort required just to make that deform. So that's going to be improved with our nice new silicone bushings here. The actual bracket itself is very thin stamped steel. All in all, in terms of weight, it is heavier than the Airtec piece, but like I said, it's very, very thin versus the nice chunky Airtec BRC version. Going to be a nice improvement then. Just need to get that up in there, get our two hangers through our bushings, and then bolt it in place, and that will be that. Okay then, back under the car with our new Airtec BRC piece. Obviously we want the Airtec BRC logo pointing that way, which means the flat side is towards the front of the car. Oh, there we go, so that's one in. Okay, so annoyingly, this is just a little bit too chunky to get in here with everything still in place. So what I'm going to do to get around this is I'm going to drop this bit. So we have several nuts and bolts here, and that's the same on either side. So first things first is going to remove those. And for that, I'm going to use a 13mm deep socket for the two smaller ones here, and then this big one requires a 15mm. Next we have a couple of just little pop clips, which are my favorite thing in the world. So just using a little trim tool here to try and pop it. So we've got the trim tool in between the two pieces of plastic, and then just giving it a wiggle, and it should come out eventually. So that's one bit, and then the second. There's another little clip here just on the end. Exact same thing. Just trying to separate the bits of plastic and then wiggling it out. That allows us to then pull down this bit of the under tray here. That reveals the last bolt in there. So we just need to get up there. I mean, we could take off this whole under tray bit, but I'm just going to try and get my wrench up in there and remove that. So once again, it is 13mm, just like these smaller ones up here. Alright, there we go, that is what that little bolt looks like. Okay then, so I repeated that on the other side, I got that bit out, it's just a big long plate thing. So now we should hopefully be able to do what we need to do. Hey, there we go. Not gonna lie, that was a bit of a pain in the ass, but hey, at least we're in. Alright then, before we get these bolts back in, I am going to just give them a little dab of Loctite Blue. Alright, and then we can get those put in. These are the bolts for the bracket itself. Alrighty, then our two bolts, we can just get them started by hand first. Just making sure everything's nice and square. Okay, so those are reasonably tight, I would say. And then switch over to torque wrench. Torque these to 30 Newton meters. Cool. So that is our plate technically installed, but now of course we have to put back our plate thing. So we need to slide it under, and then you might want to push it all the way in, like further, like you need to on one side, just to slide it in underneath the under tray here. and then backwards, and using our studs to locate, and then start getting some of our hardware in. So these ones that have the little washer, they match up with another sort of bigger washer. So you know that's that one and that one. And then the larger of the nuts, these sort of like these top hat nuts underneath that. Then we have the bolts from here. So that should be enough to hold that in place. And then we have the little bolts from very far out here. So there are two holes, and you want to be going in the one furthest to the outside of the car. Okay, so switching over to the 13mm deep socket, I can do the small bolt and small nut either side, and I can also, you know what, that's pretty, looks pretty bang on to me. So yeah, just tighten these up. And we switch over to 15mm and do the larger of the nuts. Switching over to the torque wrench, gonna do the small nuts and bolts to 35 Newton meters. And then the big nuts to 45 Newton meters. Okay, then the last ones then out at the far side, gonna torque them to 35. And then finally our little push clips. So you want them to be obviously not pushed together whenever you slide them through. So slide them through first, and then push the pin in. That's that. There we go, and with that we are installation complete. Well, there we go, that is the installation finished of our new Airtec downpipe bracket, and I think it looks awesome. I'm sure it's going to perform awesome, but I will admit it was a bit more awkward and fiddly to get it installed than I had hoped. I always like, whenever I'm doing installs, to remove and unbolt as little parts from the car as possible, but this time I had to do a little bit more, and even then it was still just about enough to get it in. Otherwise, the easiest way to install this part would be when you are changing to a different downpipe. So if you're getting a sports cat, or if you are getting a decat, then that would be the perfect time whenever everything is out to just bolt this new bracket in place. But yes, despite all that, I am still very happy with this Airtec product. I think it looks great, and I hope you like it too. I hope you like this video. Please do like, share, and subscribe for more content to come very, very soon. Thank you once again. Goodbye.